I'm out in wine country. I haven't had a lick of liquor today. I'm here to tell you about the brand new 2023 RX Lexus. This is the most important vehicle to them because they sell hundreds of thousands of these, and they made some big changes. The biggest change being, well, the exterior, the interior, the body structure, everything, and they're moving it up market. Big shock. It commands a higher price tag. So let's get into what that means. The exterior has been modified heavily. They've gone back to a bit more of a conservative look without making it look stodgy, because buyers like me or my age group just want to cut their own path. And that's what they're doing here. The good thing is there's less creases, less lines, it looks far less overstyled than the previous RX, and it's going to attract the former owners that abandoned this, for sure. But before I get into the technical information, we're going to cover the interior space because this is where you're living. And compared to the Lexus NX, well, it's very similar. However, the dashboard or the upper dashboard design is slightly altered. There's more use of extended materials like micro suedes, leathers. There's semi-aniline leather in the upper trim levels. There's a lower quality leather in the middle trim. And then, of course, you have the kind of pleatherish material on the base trim. But it is very well laid out, much like we see in most traditional Lexus products. They understand how to break up hard plastic with soft touch materials and bright work. Jack talks about this on a lot of cars. There's a good use of silver, or in the case of this F-Sport model, aluminum look trim or aluminum pieces basically without any use of piano black in the high touch point areas. And it does look very good, and it feels very soft and comfortable to be in here. Now, because this is on a new architecture, there's things like visibility has changed a bit, the wheelbase is a bit longer, so it feels slightly more spacious, although you'll take a look at the numbers and that may not seem that way. They have added their 3.0 safety suite, which is like 2.5 level autonomous driving. It's hands-free driving at under 30 miles an hour in stop-and-go traffic. So if you're in a traffic jam, you can take your hands off the wheel. However, they do have the eye tracking sensors with infrared in it, so it can make sure that you're paying attention. And I'm telling you, if you take your eyes off the road for any period of time and have this system on, it's like, nope, it's going to beep at you every second, which Lexus and Toyota are great at, giving you plenty of alerts. Speaking of that, the storage spaces are great. There's a slot for 2 phones, a wireless charger when you move up the trim or the trim levels. There's different types of materials you can choose, from open pore wood to this aluminum look texture. There's just a great use of materials in here, long story short. You have Lexus's patented flip armrest, which opens up from both sides, which is great for the driver and passenger. The seats have good adjustability. However, there's no massage function, boo-hoo. And the back seats are great, 60-40 split, what you would expect. And the rear cargo space, because there's no 3-row option here, is huge. And one of the biggest benefits, and you'll see me complain about every Lexus and Toyota video prior to this, their lift gate was the slowest thing on the planet. It was so frustrating, which they fixed here. It is now 3 seconds faster to open and close, which is a very welcome change. The audio system in here is pretty good for a Levinson unit. It's on par with most of the things. It lacks a little bit of brightness, but we haven't tested it on the objective testing yet. Wait for our press car video. But most everything works in here quite well, and the technology is a big upgrade, which we did a Toyota Connected video, so you can see all that there. But I think it's time to get into some of the technical discussion so I can tell you all about the... What?
I gotta teach you about technology.
Because Mark was wine drunk during the technical presentation, I'm going to briefly walk you through some of the engineering tidbits. This car is now on TNGA K, where the old RX was not. So this is a more rigid, more technologically advanced platform. This has more NVH material. It is a car that has reduced the weight. It's dropped about 200 pounds versus the prior generation RX. And it has a longer wheelbase while also being a lower, wider vehicle. This car has about 4 different drivetrains. While the plug-in hybrid is not on the market yet, you get a 2.4 liter turbocharged engine, which can be had as either all-wheel drive, which is an on-demand system, or front-wheel drive. You can get this as their traditional hybrid, which is their 2.5 liter, which is paired to an eCVT and an on-demand all-wheel drive system. And what this is the performance hybrid. This is the 500H. It's a 2.4 liter turbocharged engine paired to a 6-speed automatic gearbox. It has a on-demand all-wheel drive system in the rear. This is the most powerful variant they currently sell. When it comes to the dampers, the non-F Sport models come with passive dampers, while both F Sport trims get adaptive dampers. While the top trim level, this Performance 500H, gets rear steer as well, which is supposed to decrease the turning radius, but more importantly, it helps turn in with the vehicle and higher speed stability. This car also has acoustic glass throughout all of the trim levels in the front of this vehicle. This is just a more refined, more premium feeling vehicle versus the last RX. So with that, let's take this thing for a drive.
Lexus RX 500H. This is for the creative, somebody who doesn't follow the road, or an influencer like you.
I influence one thing, and that is business decisions, Mark. I can feel my bottom line.
I'm almost the target demographic for this. That's kind of scary.
You're in the 40s. You're that desirable Lexus customer. You have your family, you have 40 kids.
I'm not badge obsessed. I changed the planet. I'm conscious. And let's just talk about the rest of it, Jack. What are they trying to do with the new RX?
They are trying to move this slightly up market, like everybody talks about.
Yep.
They
want more money. That's what it means.
They want to capture the current RX buyer, who's basically in the nursing home, and they want to also lower...
Hey, 40s or 50s is not the nursing home, pal.
And they want to lower that age demographic to 40s and 50s versus like 50s to 60s.
So I will say this, and I didn't bring it up on the interior commentary, the previous generation RX, and it's strange because I did the last 2 generations. When I started this, one of the very first press cars was 2-generation-old RX. It's crazy to think about. And you could see the evolution from that to hyper conservative to the last gen one, which turned off so many people because there were so many creases, so many folds, too much overstyling, much like what Hyundai and Kia have been trying to do. This to me feels like a rollback of some of that, and it's becoming more of what the old car was with that more youthful edge.
They are injecting some life into the driving dynamics of this vehicle. I know they go on and on about a Lexus driving signature, but when compared to the last RX...
Well, they got to justify that $1 billion test facility somehow, creating a marketing term for it, but we've driven every Lexus product, so we know there is cohesion. They want you to feel like you're in a Lexus product when you drive it, and I think this is just an extension of it. How does it differ than the NX, honestly?
So in the upper trim levels, like any of the F Sport equipped models, this has variable dampers or adaptive dampers. In this performance hybrid, the 500H, you also get rear steer. And when compared to the NX, even in the base trims, it feels more refined. They won't confirm it, but there is more sound deadening material in it. Does have a longer wheelbase to this car, so it's a little bit more refined of a ride. I think, as I mentioned earlier, they have injected some nimbleness into this car where it doesn't feel like a boat. You can drive it on a twisty-ish back road like this.
And we're on it right now, and this is kind of like a hyper unfair experiment because we're in the highest performance version with the electric motor in the back and rear wheel steering. And Lexus only has two other products that have rear wheel steering right now. Well, two that come to mind, and that's the RC350 F Sport, where they throw a rear wheel steering module, and the LC500 with the, you know, high performance pack or whatever they call it now. But they're trying to attempt to make this more nimble, and it really does feel far quicker to turn in at speed like this. And it does hide the fact that, you know, it's front wheel drive first with that motor in the back that can transfer a lot of power.
Yeah, they say up to 80% of the torque can go to the rear. So for extreme circumstances, you can make this a more rear-biased architecture. I'm sure in the real world, even under driving conditions like this where we are going flying around these corners, it never does go rear-wheel drive, but theoretically it can. It is capable. It also has anti-squat and anti-dive characteristics to the suspension tuning and the way they deliver power in these motors. So you shouldn't feel the weight transfer as much.
And you don't. Honestly, driving this out here, this is the most nimble RX I've ever been in, and it's not in a bad way either. You know, you think, oh God, did they go to this sporty route? This is not sporty at all. But the way that it controls heave, those heave motions of like flopping all over the place, this is still super soft and hyper controlled. I would have never driven like this aggressively with the old RX. So I think they found a really perfect balance of going super soft and making it feel like you could drive this like a dick.
Compared to the last RX, yes, losing the 6-cylinder from a refinement perspective and potentially reliability perspective is a big con.
It is.
But from a purely objective, let me look at the numbers, let me actually drive this and not think 5, 10, 20 years down the road, this is a much better car. It's quieter, it's far more refined, it gets better fuel economy, and when you're driving in the real world, the torque output from the forced induction turbocharged engine that's in this and the base model, not the 2.5 hybrid, is great. It does a really, really good job getting you off the line where you don't, again, feel like you're driving.
It's faster, it's better in every single way, except you're going to question reliability.
Yes.
It's far more complicated of a drivetrain. There's far more going on to do all of this, and I think that's going to be the really telling sign of how Toyota did this long term. You know, when we're talking 10 years in an RX 350, the previous gen with the V6, that's like nothing. Yeah. Like literally nothing. And
that's why people bought them.
Yeah, that's one of the primary reasons. You don't have to worry about it. This, you're like, okay, it's cool, it's fast, it gets better fuel economy, and all of those things that go into it to do that. It does have fine print to it. You know, now you have a rear wheel steering module in this model that you're gonna have to deal with aligning, and if you're in bad climate with rust, it's gonna be harder to rot out. So, I mean, that's the real world part of it, but we're talking about a new car, and as a new car, it's far better than the old one.
The two things they compared this to in the presentation, at least my takeaway from the presentation, is X5 and MDX.
Yeah.
I don't think, to be honest, that many people who are going to buy an X5 are going to get swayed by a Lexus product because they like the BMW. The X5 drives better than this at the limit. It has a more impressive drivetrain. The B58 gets similar fuel economy to this on the highway. It's faster, blah, blah, blah. But the MDX to me feels like the more organic competitor.
Agreed.
Yes, that's a bigger car. It has a far more sophisticated front suspension layout, double wishbone, has a TVD or torque vectoring rear differential, but it is not as soft as this, and more importantly, it doesn't return the fuel economy.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And well, the MDX does have a third row.
It's bigger.
Seats.
It's a bigger vehicle.
It's just a bigger vehicle.
And it gets a V6.
And the V6, right, which is pretty much tried and true. That's kind of like the last generation of this. I don't know, Jack. I mean, we could go on, and in this short drive, there's really not much more to say. When we get this as a press car, I think that'll be the time where we can get together, put this thing on the lift, really look at all the technical details that weren't made available to us yet, and kind of go through all the different trim levels.
All right, Mark, I look forward to it.
Final thoughts on the new Lexus RX, and we were on a press trip and we had very minimal time with this car, let alone to do video. So, you know, these are a lot of first impressions overall, and here they are. The big takeaway is they have a trim level for everyone. The mainstream $50,000 price tag all the way up to the 500H, which we drove during the drive, and I would say very few people are going to opt for that. At that price category, you know, you're going essentially to the German counterparts. Rear-wheel drive architectures, better drivetrains. The RX is best served in that middle ground of $50,000 to $65,000, where you get great refinement, You have a very solid interior, you get good fuel efficiency, and then updated technology with Toyota Connected. The infotainment issue that they've had in the past is fixed. The audio system is good. The gauge cluster and the safety system, at least in terms of the 3.0 safety system we talked about, is far superior than the older vehicle. They've updated the exterior, which is now a good mix between forward, a little bit of overstyling with more conservative looks, which is also very welcome in a vehicle like this. And then it's just what you've expected from the brand in terms of interior styling and refinement. My big question mark going into this was the NX and this car look so similar. They just seem like they would be the same thing. They're on the same platform, and they're definitely not. We got out of them back to back. The RX is far more refined. It's quieter, it's softer, it just drives better overall. You don't hear the four-cylinder. It's more the one that you want if you care about that type of thing. Now, the last thing to talk about here is there's a lot more competition than there used to be. Back when I did the 2-generation-old RX, everything's gone up market. Even the commodity brands have gone up market, and they fake the luxury very well. So the RX has more stiff competition than they used to. There's more options out there. I think the main thing you're going for here is the Lexus service. I've experienced it in the dealership. It is good. You still have that pedigree. You still have their durability, quality, and reliability baked in. They do focus on that from the engineering side. They're not completely disposable, so I hope this next generation stays the same. So when we get this as a press car, I'm going to spend way more time with a normal trim level, and we'll get back to you then. Thanks for watching.